Hello students, I welcome you all back to this platform. I am your teacher Shampancha, and today I'm going to give you this lecture on behalf of Takshila Model Senior Secondary School. So students, let us begin. So students, here we have the chapter that we are going to discuss today. This is chapter number 2. The title of the chapter is The Black Aeroplane, and it has been written by Frederick Forsyth. Students, this chapter has been taken from class 10 and the name of the book is First Flight. So students, let us just take a look at the title of the chapter. This is The Black Aeroplane. So students, here Black Aeroplane is actually the plane which is encountered by the pilot of Old Dakota. Here this story is about the pilot of two aeroplanes. One is Dakota, second is the Black Aeroplane. So the story is actually about the pilot of Old Dakota. The pilot of Old Dakota is actually flying to England, and in the middle of his flight he is encountered by the dark clouds, and there he's unable to see anything. He finds himself helpless. He thinks that he will die, and at that moment there comes another aeroplane right in next to him, and this aeroplane has no lights on its wings, and the pilot of this aeroplane comes especially to the rescue, to the help of the pilot of Old Dakota. So to the pilot of Old Dakota, this plane actually appears to be black. Why? Because there was everything dark outside his plane, and secondly this plane has no lights on its wings. So for these two reasons, this plane has been referred to as the Black Aeroplane. So students, this chapter has been written by Frederick Forsyth, who is a 20th century writer. So now let me just give you a brief introduction to the chapter. So the chapter is actually about the pilot of Old Dakota, who is going to his destination, that is in England, right? In the middle of his flight, he's just encountered by the dark clouds. All his instruments stop working. He has no way out of the dark clouds. He believes that he will soon die, and at that moment there comes another airplane to his help, to his rescue, and this the pilot of this plane, the dark aeroplane, leads the pilot of Old Dakota out of the stormy clouds safely, right? When the pilot of Old Dakota goes to the control center and asks the lady about the whereabouts of the pilot of Black Aeroplane, he comes to know that there is no such plane as the Black Aeroplane flying in the stormy night, right? So students, this is just a brief outline of the chapter that I have given you. Now let us move on to the discussion of the chapter. Let us have a detailed explanation. Students, this is a very interesting story, and I hope that you will enjoy it fully. So students, let us just move on to the discussion, to the detailed explanation of the chapter. So students, in the present chapter, there was the pilot of Old Dakota. The pilot of Old Dakota was actually flying over France, and he was going to England. So students, the pilot of Old Dakota was in a very happy mood. He was very excited about reaching his destination. And there were three reasons why he was so excited and why he wanted to reach his destination as soon as possible. Reason number one, students, pay attention to the reasons that I'm telling you. Reason number one, he was hoping to see his family. He was looking forward to seeing his family first. Second reason, he was hoping to get his holiday. And reason number three, that he wanted to have a big, good London breakfast. He did not want to miss the big London breakfast. So due to these three reasons, he just wanted to reach his destination as soon as possible. And he was very happy. He was quite contented with his flight. So students, just as he moved a little ahead, he saw big lights. He saw lights of a big city. So he decided to make a call to the Paris control room. And why did he decide to make a call? Because he wanted to receive his directions for his further journey. So students, he made a call to the Paris control room. He told the name of his plane, that was Old Dakota DS-088. So he just asked the control personnel about the direction he needed, right? So he received the response and he was given the direction. The control personnel asked the pilot of old Dakota to take a turn 12 degrees west. Where? 12 degrees west, right? So students, once the narrator, the pilot of old Dakota, received the direction from the Paris control room, he just made the turn. He took the turn that was 12 degrees west towards England, right? He was very happy. So students, it was when he had left Paris about 150 kilometers behind him, he saw in front of him, and the sight that he saw was quite alarming, was quite shocking. Why? Because he saw in front of him huge clouds, dark clouds, stormy clouds. The clouds, which were quite huge, they were very mountainous, mountains of clouds, right? So students, seeing the stormy clouds, the pilot of old Dakota feared uh, for the first reason. The first reason that he feared was, so students here just now pay attention to the reasons why the pilot of old Dakota felt worried about the stormy clouds. Before he saw those stormy clouds, the pilot of old Dakota had already switched on to the second tank, right? There are two tanks in a plane. So his first tank of fuel was already exhausted, so he had to switch to the second tank. That was the last tank, right? So he did not have enough fuel to either go back from where he came. Secondly, in order to avoid the stormy clouds, if he thought of going either north or south, it was useless, right? So before he entered the stormy clouds, the narrator, the pilot of old Dakota, started thinking what he should do. He could he could first go back from where he came. Secondly, if he wanted, he could avoid the storms. He could fly either to south or north, but he could not choose the second option for the reason that he did not have enough fuel with him, right? And for his safety, he could go back, but he did not want to go back. What was the thing that was stopping him, preventing him from going back? The three reasons that we studied in the beginning of this chapter. He did not want to miss the big, good London breakfast first, and he did not want to delay the meeting with his family, right? So because of all these things, he finally decided that he would take the risk. So what is the risk, students? It is written in the chapter, I'll take the risk, right? So what is the risk? Risk of not missing the things that he dearly wanted, right? So he took the risk. And what was the consequence? What was the result of taking the risk? The result of taking the risk was that he flew across straight to the stormy clouds. So students, there was already a danger that was awaiting him in the middle of the dark clouds and the stormy clouds. So when the pilot of old Dakota entered the stormy clouds, what were the things that he had to face? What were the frightening things that he had to face, and how actually he felt when he was in the middle of the dark clouds, right? So when he entered the dark clouds, first of all, everything became dark in front of him, around him, we can say, right? Wherever he saw, wherever he looked out of the aeroplane, he saw nothing but darkness. So everything became dark. So he was unable to see anything out of his plane. So students, first of all, he just looked at his compass. When he took a look at the compass, what is compass? Compass is an instrument which tells you the direction, right? So the needle of the compass was turning round and round and round, and after some time it stopped moving, which showed that it was dead. So his compass was not working. Then he tried to contact the control room, and he spoke something into the radio, and he found that the radio was also not working. It also stopped working. It was dead too. So all the instruments which could help him get the direction, to maintain a contact with some other person who could just help him, all these instruments were not working for the narrator, for the pilot of old Dakota DS-088. So students, it was quite difficult for the pilot of old Dakota to find help or to just move out of the dark clouds. So it was now sure for the pilot of old Dakota that he would not live longer, right? He would just die because he was not able to find the way. Secondly, he did not have enough fuel in his tank. He had already moved to the second tank. So students, his all the instruments stopped working and his plane just twisted, right, and turned in the air. So he was quite afraid. He was frightened, right? He lost all his hopes. He was sure that he would die. All of a sudden, there came somebody to help him. You know who that somebody was? There was another plane who was flying. There was another plane which was flying just next to him. When pilot of old Dakota saw the pilot of Black Aeroplane, he felt relieved. He felt relieved because at least there was someone flying in their stormy cloud with the pilot of old Dakota. So students, the first thing that the pilot of Black Aeroplane did was to give a signal to the pilot of old Dakota. He just waved to the pilot of old Dakota. It seemed to the pilot of old Dakota that the pilot of Black Aeroplane wanted him to follow the signals that he was giving to him. He wanted him to follow like an obedient child. So the pilot of old Dakota did the same. He followed the pilot of Black Aeroplane quite obediently, like a child did, right? Like a child does. So students, after half an hour, the pilot of Black Aeroplane successfully led the pilot of old Dakota out of the stormy clouds, right? When the pilot of Black Aeroplane saw two big lines on the ground, he was at least convinced that it was a runaway and he is safe now, right? So he was convinced, he was sure that it was a runway and he was safe. So he landed safely first of all. Once he had landed, what he did not bother to leave his old Dakota behind and he moved straight to the control room. Students, it is written in the chapter that he did not feel sorry to leave his old Dakota behind. Why did he say this? He said this because the pilot of old Dakota was not sure whether he landed on the right place. Right place was England for him, right? So he was not sure whether the place he had landed was England or some other place, right? So students, when it happens, really, whenever you are somewhere, especially at an unknown place, and you just feel a little bit uncomfortable to part with your belongings, right? Even for some time. So the same was the condition with the pilot of old Dakota. He instead of caring for his plane old Dakota, he just moved straight to the control room. And why was he in such a hurry to reach the control room? He just wanted to thank the pilot of Black Aeroplane, sorry. Right? So he wanted to thank the pilot of Black Aeroplane who saved him, right? Who led him out of the stormy clouds, right? He was like a god to him, right? So students, when the pilot of Black Aeroplane went to the control room, he found a lady behind the counter and he asked that lady about the whereabouts of the pilot of Black Aeroplane. But the response that he received was quite alarming, was quite shocking. You know what the lady said? The lady said that there was no other aeroplane flying in the stormy night than his own, right? So it was quite alarming for him and he was shocked to hear this. How was it possible? He himself had seen that pilot of Black Aeroplane, and not only he saw, he followed him also, right? So he was just shocked. So students, with this, with the confused, we find the pilot of old Dakota in a very confused state of mind at the end of the chapter, right? So the pilot of old Dakota is absolutely helpless. He's unable to understand how is it possible, right? So with this, the chapter ends. So now let us just take a look at the end of the chapter. So students, the title So students, the response the pilot of Old Dakota received from the lady was quite shocking for him, right? He just wanted to thank the pilot of Black Aeroplane, but the pilot of Black Aeroplane was nowhere to be found, right? So students, now let us take a look at the end part of the chapter. The end part of the chapter tells us that the story of Black Aeroplane is nothing but a mystery. It is either a dream seen by the narrator, or it is an imagination of the narrator. So students, it actually happens whenever we are in difficulty, whenever we are in a very happy state of mind. We do what? We just start imagining things, right? So it is it may be an imagination or a dream seen by the narrator, right? It is the story of Black Airplane is actually not a reality. So with this chapter ends. I hope that I have tried to help you understand this chapter very well, students. I'll be back with a new chapter very soon, right? If you have any query regarding this chapter, you can just write to me in the comment box. So till the moment I come back with a new chapter, I thank you all for watching this video.